Xbox One S with 4K Ultra HD video and Blu-ray and high dynamic range gaming. The ultimate games and entertainment system. Video and Blu-ray and high dynamic range gaming. The ultimate games and entertainment system.
All right, so welcome. Hold on, that's not gonna work. All right, so we got some people joining us tonight. One viewer. Congratulations! Thanks for joining me, one viewer. So this is going to be a review session that has to do with tomorrow's test on Constitution and federalism. So I'm kind of here just to answer your questions. I know that we rushed through some things in class, and I want to be here to be able to sort of give you the opportunity to ask questions and whatnot. Now, in order to be able to ask questions, you have to be logged in with a Google account on YouTube. If you're watching this, I sent you a couple of links. One link has to do with just sort of here's the video and here's how you watch it. The other link, if you want to sort of join me and ask your questions using the camera on your computer, which I think they work, I'm not sure. Then you can click that link and you can join on, and I can put you on the screen. And if you want to if you want to answer questions, I'll let you do that too. So basically, here's the deal. We have ourselves a big cumulative test tomorrow. Big. It's the first one. It's something that you sort of got to get ready for. You have to be prepared for. You have to know your stuff. But it doesn't cover all that much material. It really only covers the Constitution and federalism. And so, there's a limited amount. 2, 3 study guides if you count the one from chapter 1, and there's not a whole lot that really comes from chapter 1, other than maybe the whole idea of the different theories of government, like pluralist and hyperpluralist and elitist theories. Sort of like what government and politics are. But most of it's from the Constitution and from federalism. And so what I really want to do here is I want to answer the questions that you have, because, that's really the important part of all of this. It's like, what questions do you have that you never got answered? What questions do you have that you don't understand? What can I do to help you get ready for this test? So as people are logging on, we're going to get this whole thing started, but please type in questions into the chat room there, and we can, I can answer what questions you have. So Justin Barber, hey, good to see you. Welcome to the live hangout here. We should be getting more people as we get along, but we got to get questions in order to get things going. Hey, Michelle, welcome. Glad to see that you're here. Look, cumulative tests are sort of they're intimidating, and the questions that you're going to get tomorrow are going to seem intimidating because you're going to have a lot of them, and you're not going to have a lot of time, so you're going to feel the pressure of kind of moving through it and all of this. Look, you guys are able to deal with timing. You're able to deal with the questions. You're able to deal with content. I mean, most of this stuff, and you have lots of resources in order to prepare for this stuff. So really, it's just a matter of like walking into the situation, coming into class tomorrow, and being like ready to kind of be a part of this. Boy, I have people logging on. Okay, so if you decide to choose the log on where you can see me and all of that, then that means that I'm going to have to, and you're going to have to use headphones with speakers. Otherwise, we're going to get major feedback here. So Joy, you just logged on, so grab yourself a set of headphones and plug yourself in, because otherwise there's going to be screeching all over the place and it's just not going to work all that well. So let's see. And what I'm going to do, Joy, is I'm going to mute you for now. Let me know when you're ready to ask a question, and I can put you up on the screen and let you know what's going on, or give you the chance to ask a question. And otherwise we'll sort of do this. So anyway,
I was trying to ask a question.
So let's see here. We'll mute this. I'm getting a weird feedback here on some of this, and it's because you guys don't have yourselves on headphones. So get the headphones on, and we can make sure that we don't get the sort of feedback on all of this. All right, so Mike Abduloff, how many questions are there? Well, there's 60 questions on tomorrow's test. 60 multiple choice. There's no FRQ. There is no there's nothing else. It's 60 multiple choice questions, and so when you get them, you just kind of get through and you start plowing through the whole things. Why on question of the chapter 2 test is the answer A? You know, I don't have that stuff in front of me. I'm guessing that Frigalaki is David. So David, if you know what question 2 is and what answer A is, then that might help me with being able to answer that. So let's see, Michelle, can we discuss the different powers of government, such as implied, reserved, concurrent, etc.? Okay, so let me give you like I'm going to try something totally new here. So let's see. I'm assuming you guys are seeing a whiteboard sort of thing here. And I've never used this before, so I'm going to try just kind of playing around here. So let's see, we're talking about different powers. So if we're talking about, okay, so first of all, we have what are called delegated or they're also called enumerated powers, and they're also called expressed powers. And these are kind of all there because these things are all directly set up in the Constitution. It says it right there. Then you also have powers which are denied powers. And basically what denied powers are is the Constitution says, like, Constitution says no on those. I'm trying to, by the way, write with a track, the little track mouse or a trackpad. So, it doesn't look that great. So no, you can't do that. Whether that's to a state or whether that's to the federal government, they are denied. Then you also have, of course, the implied powers. And the implied powers are where you get into a problem. Like, I mean, this is obvious, like you can do this. And this is obvious, you can't do this. But this becomes like the question mark. And the reason it becomes the question mark is because implied powers have to do, they come out of two things. First of all, you have the 10th Amendment, which basically says that which sets up reserved powers for the states, so that anything that's not sort of given to the states, I'm sorry, given to the federal government or denied to the states becomes a state power. But then you also have the Elastic Clause, and in the Elastic Clause, it basically says, it has that phrase necessary and proper, that Congress can make laws which are necessary and proper for the carrying out of their duties. And so what happens is that these two things, they cause a whole big I don't know why I did a star, but they cause a conflict, you know, and there's like there's a conflict over power there, over who gets it. If something's necessary and proper, and Congress takes it, then it takes away from the federal government. So that's kind of the idea there. Did that kind of work? That's kind of, I don't know. Let's see. Fergalaki MVM. I don't know what MVM is. Celeste, can we expect to see questions like we did today with our review? Celeste, the questions that you saw today in the review are going to be on tomorrow's test. Like, literally, I copied and pasted. That was the whole point of the thing. So if you did well today, that's a good sign. You know, you're working in groups. So sometimes in groups, you have people who are sort of the leaders of the group. They're the ones who are taking over. If you were one of those, then, hey, you're probably in good shape. If you were one of the ones that was sitting back and, you know, you didn't really know the answers to a lot of this, then you got some work cut out for you over the next few hours. For the principle of checks and balances is based on the theory that a government is inherently weak is preferable to one that is overbearing. Oh yeah, that was a question that I decided was probably badly worded, because I think if I recall correctly, I think I said that there were two answers which were really plausible and good for that, you know. But if you have a checks and balances system, it weakens the government because it makes it kind of slower, and it can't react as quickly to things, and it's less responsive to the people because you have to go through multiple layers of government. So that's why it would be weak. An overbearing government would be more of a unitary system where it's like, you know, one person in charge, they make the decisions and they don't really have checks on their powers. That would be it. I don't remember what the other answer was that I said was also acceptable. I think it was like power, like can counterbalance power or something like that. But same idea. Celeste said nope. Don't know what that means. Okay. Oh, you don't see the whiteboard thing. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Visibility. Oh, okay. All right. So how about this? Looks like you have to have a link to the whiteboard. So there's the link to the whiteboard. And that should give you the ability to see what it was that I was doing, and that would sort of take care of that. So I'll use that sparingly. We'll see what goes over. All right, so let's see. Joy, boy, I'm getting comments all over the place here. Okay. An example of bicameral legislature. Bicameral simply means that there are two houses in the legislature, two different bodies where people meet. And the American Congress is an example of that because you have the House of Representatives on one side and you have the Senate on the other side. So therefore it's bicameral. A unicameral legislature would be like there's one group and they make the laws. But we went with the bicameral because one has to approve it and the other has to approve it as well. It also shows off federalism because the House of Representatives is by population, so it more represents the interests of America as a nation, or the people as a country. The Senate is based on equal state representation, so it more expresses the interests of the states and is a little bit more skewed towards the state interests. So that would be a bicameral thing. All right, so Michelle, I answered your question. Good. Mike, can you explain the significance difference of the two court cases that were mentioned in the book, and are they important for us to know for the test tomorrow? Okay, so you guys see the web whiteboard. So how about I try it and we'll just see how it works again. All right, so let's see. Can I do like a new board? Here we go. Wait, no. Okay. Can I move the whiteboard down? I can. Look at that. Okay. All right. So let's just sort of like draw a squiggly line here. And let's see. 2 court cases. Okay. So court case 1. Actually, there are 3 court cases that you need to know. The first one is called, and I should italicize this if I can, is called Marbury versus Madison. And Marbury versus Madison very simply set up judicial review. It gave the Supreme Court the power to Madison. Marbury versus Madison. I'm gonna mute you, Emily, just until you have a question. That way I don't get feedback. But if you put on headphones, Emily, then you won't get feedback and all of that, and it won't be like squeaky. So Marbury versus Madison is judicial review, and it makes it so the Supreme Court can review laws to make sure that they line up with the Constitution. All right. Then you have McCulloch versus Maryland, and in McCulloch versus Maryland, you have 2 things. First of all, it goes along with the Supremacy Clause, saying that yes, the Supreme Court or the federal government is supreme to the states. It also it also says that yes, the federal government has implied powers. But the thing that's really, really kind of important here, the thing that really is key, and this is what you'll see over and over, is this phrase that states cannot tax the legitimate activities of the federal government. That's what they said. So that's sort of McCulloch versus Maryland for you. And then there's also Givens v. Ogden.
My voice sounds funny.
And when you have Givens v. Ogden, then that is all about the Commerce Clause. And what they do is they sort of like they broaden the power of the federal government over commerce, because commerce is traditionally thought of. Oh, you keep turning it on so that I can't mute you. So whenever you're ready to ask a question, let me know. But it broadens the power of the federal government over commerce, because they had originally said commerce was mostly like actually trading things and whatnot. And now they're saying, okay, so commerce is all about, moving people or any sort of movement of anything. So yeah. All right. So we've got that. We've got this. And then we have a question about what is representative democracy. All right. So real simply, representative democracy, or a republic, means that you have people who are elected into office. In other words, I'm not going to sit down and make decisions for the country. I'm going to go through, you and I are going to go through, we're going to elect people who represent us. And then they're going to make the decisions. They're going to make the laws and all of that. They're going to carry out the policies. And it takes us out of the equation from like a day-to-day standpoint. But it's still a democracy, because we get to decide when we go, if we keep them in office or not. So that would be sort of representative democracy in a way. Now, Joy, I'm guessing Joy Elise here. Can we go over the types of grants again, please? Joy, I'm going to unmute you. I'm going to put you up on the screen so that you guys can answer the question. Whoops. Let's see, muted, and then I can go watch. This is fun. Present to everybody. Do you guys see yourselves on there? No? How about if I do this? Now are you on there? Yeah? Still not on there, huh? Because I can see you. And you should be on the live thing. Oh, I see them. Yeah, you guys are on there. No? People are saying no, but everybody else is saying, hey, I see them, I see them, I see them. They're up on my screen. So I'm going to unmute you and well, how do I unmute you? Do you guys mute yourselves? Maybe?
Yeah.
There we go. All right.
Okay.
So what's your question?
About grants, I still don't understand anything like about them.
Okay, all right. So grants are really kind of a tough little concept here. So I'll kind of go through this, and maybe the whiteboard is the. Are you guys liking the whiteboard? Is this the, like?
We can't see a whiteboard.
Yeah, what whiteboard?
What whiteboard are you talking about?
Okay, so on the whiteboard, I gave you guys a link. If you scroll up, oh, you know what? You guys can't. You guys are on a different feed than everybody else. So let's see. Let's go to the chat, and let's just see if this pasting it. Boom. All right, did you guys see a link come up?
Yeah. Right there.
Oh, yeah.
All right, click on that, and that should bring up the whiteboard.
Yes.
You got it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, okay, all right. So, yeah, this is like a horrible whiteboard because I'm trying my best to like, you know, move this along. But okay, so here's the idea with grants. All right, so grants are really kind of like grants equal money. And it's money that's given from the federal government so that you can so that like the federal government can you know, can get states to do things that they might want to do, they might not want to do, right? And so there's a couple types of grants. All right, one type of grants is called categorical grants, and they're categorical grants because what they do is they are for specific purposes, and the federal government is going to set out the specific purpose. That's why it's called a category. Like there's a category of things that money will go into. And so you have that. And under categorical grants, there are really two types of categorical grants. One is called, one type is called project grants. And under project grants, there's an application process. And basically the federal government says, we're going to have a grant to do such and such. We're going to have a grant to we're going to have a grant to like build bridges, or we're going to have a grant to promote this, or we're going to have some type of grant to do something, right? And so here's a bunch of money, and then you have to apply saying like, okay, like our state's bridges are really in danger, and so we need this much money, and then the state would like lay it out, like we need I don't know, $400 million to repair this bridge, and we need $200 million to repair this, you know, and so they ask for pieces of the total amount of money that's there. And then there are also what are called formula grants, and these states don't have to apply for, but there is some sort of like equation that creates the amount given. And the classic example of this is something like welfare programs. So the federal government is gonna help out with welfare, and they're gonna say like, all right, the welfare is something that's state provided, and the federal government's going to help it out. So we're going to base what the state gets on a certain formula, which is the number of people who qualify for welfare in your state. So if you have a lot of people that qualify for it, then your state's going to get more money. If you have fewer people, then you're going to get less money. You don't have to apply for it. It's all given, but it's based on a formula that's set up. And then the other side of grants is that you have what are called block grants. And block grants are really, there's like no category to it. It's just money that states can use at their discretion for what they need. In other words, the federal government understands that states don't have enough money to do everything that they need, and so they're going to give them money to kind of help out with the programs that they need help with. But they're going to allow the states to decide how much money to spend in different areas, and that's basically the grant system. So I'm going to unmute you guys here. Does that? Did you guys mute yourself again? No? All right, I'm going to try this again. Mute. Wait a minute. I'll go to my control center. This thing is so complicated sometimes. Let's see. I don't know who you are or how to. Oh, you guys are on. There you go. Okay, so does that answer your question?
Can you please take us down now?
Can I what?
Can you take us down now?
Oh, take you down. Okay, so you don't want to be on the screen anymore. Okay. All right. Hey, we have a lot of people over there. That's pretty kind of cool. All right.
It's an AP Go study group.
Oh, okay. It's a nice study group. Good. I like it. I like study groups. All right. Let's see. I'm going to go back over to the right side here on this. What amendments do we have to know for the test tomorrow, Michelle? I would say be familiar with the Bill of Rights. We're not going to get too deep into a whole lot of specific amendments just yet. I'm trying to think. The 10th Amendment, I would definitely know because it has to deal with federalism. Let's see, 1 no, 2 no, 3 no, 4 no, 5, 6, 7, 8. I would sort of familiarize yourself with the Bill of Rights. I wouldn't spend too much time, but just kind of know it so that if you see something like cruel and unusual punishment, like you go, okay, yeah, that's Bill of Rights. But we'll get more into amendments later in the year. The 10th Amendment is definitely going to be important. The amendment process is going to be important. And I don't know that any other amendments are going to be on the test. Really should have brought the test so I could just look at it, but I totally forgot to do that. I think. Yeah, I forgot to bring it. Okay. How did civil liberties develop? Well, civil liberties, Justin, developed very simply by the creation of the Bill of Rights, because they define the liberties that we have that the federal government can't take away. Well, I mean, they can in some instances, but like the freedom of speech and freedom of the press, and you know, the right to bear arms, and you know, the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. All of those things are there, and they're in there because of the Bill of Rights. That's where civil liberties come from. Let's see, boy, everybody's on here. Let's see, Bella's here. Nice, nice, nice. Bella, there's a whole study session at your student home. That's really cool. You guys should jump on and get on the video, and you can you know, ask questions on screen, which is kind of fun. So Mike, so fiscal federalism is just the distribution of government money. It isn't comparable to other types of federalism. Okay, it is comparable to other types of federalism because if you're thinking about it, like it's a form of cooperative federalism. Okay, so I've given you like the good, the happy side of all of this in terms of, you know, the federal government's going to help out state programs by giving them money. But there's sort of a negative side of it too, because the federal government can kind of dangle money in front of the states and be like, okay, well, if you do exactly what it is we want you to do, then you get some cash. And they can force states to do things. They can force states to adopt policies based on money. So the classic example is the drinking age. Raising the drinking age to 21 ensured that those states can get the money for the highway funds. You know, so that's sort of a negative thing. Not this negative, but they can use it to force states to do things. Michelle, how long are these sessions? Michelle, it depends on you guys. Like, we can turn this off right now if you guys are done. We can be here for another hour if you guys are here for another hour. And it looks like we have another question coming from Joy's group, so I'm going to try and unmute you here. Let's see. Boom. Now it should. There you go. What's your question, guys?
The difference, like the specific differences between dual and cooperative, because they get confusing.
Okay, so dual federalism is, I'm going to leave you guys on screen just because I know you don't like it. I'm kidding. So dual federalism means that like there's a very distinct difference between, and this is the way what things were, okay? They aren't done like this anymore. But dual federalism, from the time the Constitution was written up until the Great Depression, it was basically this system whereby things were either state powers or they were federal powers. And you know, I swore that I would never do this again because I used to do this in class and like, it's just like, I'm horrible at it. And it's going to be even worse with this, but like this is dual federalism. Okay. So it's your cake. See that slice of cake right there? Look at that. That is just beautiful. So we got a nice little slice of cake in here and we're going to give it some green icing in the middle and green icing on the top, right? And the idea here is that you have in here, you have your federal government and there are things that they're in charge of and that they have jurisdiction over. And then here you have your states and there are things that they do and they have jurisdiction over. But the idea is because of this, they don't overlap. Like the federal government does not get involved with the states and they don't interfere in state powers. So that is the dual federalism side of things. Ooh, wow, this is really bad. Okay, yeah, no, I'm just not going to do that. Let's just get rid of the whoop, whoop, whoop. All right. We'll just say that's dual federalism, okay? And then with cooperative federalism, and I'm not even going to try and draw a marble cake, but the idea with cooperative federalism is that the federal government is going to get involved in state projects, whether by funding them or regulating them. They're going to kind of get involved because there's some things that states can't do. And one of the downsides of federalism is that you have this inequality between states. So if you don't have a lot of money to put into your education system, then you're not going to have a great education system. And so so under cooperative federalism, like the federal government can give money to the states in order to help them out with their education systems, theoretically making things a little bit more equal across the country. So yeah, good. Give me a thumbs up, guys, if that's good. Okay, good. But you have another question. So let me get Ferg's question here. Informal ways of adapting the Constitution. Okay, so obviously you have your formal amendment method, which is all about, you know, going through that process where Congress by 2/3 majority in both houses proposes a constitutional amendment and then is sent to all of the states, and 3/4 of the states have to ratify this thing. It's hard to do. I mean, look, we did the first 10 right off the bat, and then we've only had 17 since. So it's not something that happens all the time. But informally adapting the Constitution is done far more often. It can be done by things like judicial decisions. If the Supreme Court interprets the Constitution a certain way, then that changes the meaning of the Constitution. Laws that Congress passes can change the meaning of the Constitution. The new technology can change the Constitution. Do you get a fair trial if your trial is televised, or if the it's late at night. Some of you guys see me first thing in the morning, and I'm far more together than this. But like if cell phone videos are put on the news, does that guarantee a fair trial? What is cruel and unusual punishment? All those things can be changed with different interpretations of the Constitution. And then there are practices, and the biggest practice that has changed the way the Constitution works is the introduction of political parties. We only have really 2 political parties. There are so many people who are upset right now because they want to vote for someone other than Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump. But with the way the system is set up with 2 parties, they don't really have a choice to do that. So they're kind of stuck. And a lot of people complaining that they're having to vote for the candidate that is like the lesser of 2 evils, essentially. So those are some informal ways, and there are others. There are lots of other ways to do this, but those are sort of like the major ones. Mike, fiscal federalism tying into other forms of federalism. Did I already answer that? Or are you good on that? Just give me a yes or no on that. And the devolution revolution is being shown down by the study group over here with Joy. So what is devolution? Is that basically your question? See, I get to unmute you again, and I get to put you up on screen again. Yeah, you love being on screen. You do. You love it.
Examples of devolution?
Okay, so devolution was this idea that like at the beginning, like there was a period where the federal government really started, especially in the 1960s and 70s, they really started getting in their hands in regulating all kinds of things that the states do, because it's much easier, and people like national solutions, and people who are presidential candidates are going to propose national solutions. I mean, you guys saw the debate. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the other. These are national solutions that could be for state problems. And so there was a period where there was almost over-regulation, where cooperative federalism got to be a little bit over the top from the federal government. And it was costing a lot of money. And so devolution was this move where the federal government started saying, okay, we need to give some powers back to the states to let them do their own thing. And really the tool they used in order to do that was block grants, because if you give states money, then they're more able to do the things that they need to do, but you allow them to make the decisions based on that. Good, give me a thumbs up. All right, good, okay. Mike, you need more explanation on fiscal federalism. Like, how does dual and cooperative connect to federal? Okay, dual doesn't connect to fiscal federalism in any way. Fiscal federalism is a form of cooperative federalism, where they're not cooperating by just sort of like helping out. An example of non-fiscal federalism would be like, okay, Hurricane Katrina in 2005 hit the coast of, hit New Orleans and the southern Gulf Coast really hard. And so it was far out. I mean, it was way beyond the ability of the state governments to deal with all of the devastation and all of that. And so basically they called in the feds, and the FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, came in and started cleanup efforts, and they built these really notorious like mobile homes for people to live in, but they gave people housing. They did a lot of evacuations, and the federal government really helped with the cleanup. So so that's fiscal federalism. I mean, that's cooperative federalism without fiscal. Fiscal means like the states pretty much do everything, but the federal government gives them money in order to do those things. So hopefully that answered your question. And I don't know what you guys are asking down here, but it's backwards. So Joy, what you got? What are you asking me here? Don't worry about it? Or just take you off camera? You love being on camera. You know you do. No? No? Is it just the three of you? And where are you guys anyway? You're in 4. There are 4 of you. There are 3 of you. I don't know what you're saying. And for some reason, muting and unmuting you guys is really hard to do. I don't know why I can't.
There's 4 of us that are in 4th period.
Oh, I gotcha. So who's there? John and you and Seabass.
Oh yeah, I mean there's 3 of us in 4th period.
Oh, I gotcha. Who are the other people in the background?
I don't know. I mean, wait, people in
You don't know them?
people in the studio.
Okay. All right. So this is like study hour, right?
I got $50 waiting for you in the back if you just give me an entry.
Okay, never mind. Thanks.
Okay. So you're good. Now you're gonna mute yourself again. Okay, I'll take you off. I really want Emily to come on screen. Emily, turn on your camera. Ask us a question. Come on, join. You're on the I want to be part of this. There we go. All right. So Emily, whoa. Now you are muted for some reason. Let's see if I can. Can you unmute? Or did you mute yourself? Is there like a button up at the top?
There you go. Am I unmuted?
Now we can hear you. So welcome.
Okay.
Hey.
This is so confusing.
I know. So you got a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask about the informal and then formal ways of amendments. I know you talked about it a little bit earlier, but can you explain to me more about like what formal is? The formal ways of amending the Constitution?
Absolutely. So look, I'm showing something to the camera and you're on camera, so I'm gonna take you off and like okay. So you got your book, right?
Yes.
That's the book, right? Okay. So it's gonna take me a second because I gotta find it. But the you know every government book has the thing for formal amendment process. So if you look at page 61, down here at the bottom, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Here, let me get that real quick.
All right. So page 61 at the bottom is the formal constitutional amendment process, and basically it has. Oh, Joy, you left me. All right. So it has 2 ways to do this. Now you got to go through two there's a beginning and there's an end to the amendment process. The beginning, and this is going to be really weird because I'm sort of holding it up and pointing to it because it's the best thing. The beginning is backwards. Let's see. Okay, so proposing amendments. Is that the right one? 2/3 of both. Yeah. Okay. So you get one of 2 choices to propose an amendment, right? So they come up with an idea and they pass it through and they say, here's an idea that we want to make as an amendment. This is either done by 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress, or like, and we've never actually done this, but sorry, the camera is backwards, and so when I go this way, it goes the other way. Or like they can call this big national convention and states can send people there, and 3/4 of the states have to be part of calling that, right? then so then it has to go through a ratification phase. Wait a minute. Sorry. Oh, this one's different than the one I'm used to. So either you have 2/3 vote in both houses of Congress, or you have the National Convention called by Congress at 2/3 of the states, and the states can determine who they send and you know what the qualifications are and all of that, how they're going to hold it. Then it has to be ratified. So like it passes the green areas, and then it goes into the blue areas, and it has to be ratified. And the most common way to do this is to send it to the legislatures, like we have in Harrisburg, and 3/4 of the state legislatures have to say, okay, this is a good idea. Or, wait a minute, other way. Or you can have state conventions, which are called in each state, and 3/4 of those state conventions have to approve it. And so it's like a 2-step process. There's the proposal, and then there's the ratification. So does that make sense? Okay. It's a difficult process. It's long. It's drawn out. It does not. That's why we don't have many amendments, honestly. And because, you know, the Constitution is flexible enough, and there are other ways to do things, so that, you know, you don't have to rely on the formal amendment process in order to get this done. So, so yeah, that's the basic amendment question. Other questions we have out there? I don't know why it says I only have 2 viewers. This is really, my goodness, it feels so not many people. But yeah, do you have any other questions about how things work, how the test works, what should be expecting, and all of that? Or is everybody kind of good at this point? You're giving me the good sign, Emily, and I like that. That's good. All right. All right. Well, I'm just going to wait here for any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys get studying on this stuff. But yeah, I hope that that I answered all the questions that you were looking for. Kinda. David, dude, you really got to work on your comments here. What does kinda mean? You're kind of ready. You kind of enjoy this. And Celeste says, oh my. Okay. I don't know what this means. Emily, how do you leave? I don't know. I can kick you off if you want me to. Watch this. Watch this. Bam. You're gone. Okay, so Celeste is kind of ready. Bella, you are good and clapping. Good. I like that. That's good. I mean, my gosh, 45 minutes. I totally made Bella's day. That's great. Oh, Gibbons v. Ogden. All right. So I went over this earlier, and I don't know if you were on, but I can go back up on the whiteboard. So, because there are questions that you need here. She watched this if you kicked her off. Oh, I just kicked her off from the video, but she can click on the other link and go and watch online, I think. It's a good question, Celeste. I hope I didn't kick Emily off. I feel so bad. Okay, so Gibbons v. Ogden right here. Malcolm, this is big on the Commerce Clause, okay? Commerce Clause is there saying the federal government oversees interstate commerce. And remember, Gibbons v. Ogden is that case where like you had the 2 guys running ferries between New Jersey and New York, and one of them had the license, the exclusive license from the state of New York, and one of them had the exclusive license from the federal government. And so it went to the Supreme Court, and they had to decide what was there. Well, they affirmed a couple of things. They affirmed the Supremacy Clause, and for some reason it looks like I froze. Did I freeze? No, I'm here. Okay. So it affirmed the Supremacy Clause that the federal government is kind of supreme in these areas, but also it affirmed the Commerce Clause, which said that the federal government could rule interstate commerce. But it kind of broadened the idea of what commerce is. Commerce doesn't just mean buying and selling things. It also could mean transporting people. And so it opens it up so that the Commerce Clause becomes kind of the vehicle that the federal government uses to like expand its power over the course of, well, the next 200 years since Gibbons v. Ogden. And they continue to use the Commerce Clause in order to expanding their power, in order to expand their power. So Bella's been having a bad day. I'm sorry, Bella. We have them. But you're going to have a good day tomorrow. You see this test and you're going to be like, yeah, I got this. So yeah, so good. Glad that I could help out on that one and take care of it. Okay, other questions. There's got to be something you don't understand, something that you're worried about. But I only have one viewer now, it says. Everybody's left me. Yeesh. Okay. So by one viewer, if you just type in and say I'm good, and or I have a question, that would help. If there are other viewers out there, I don't know. That's me. That's me. That's me. I'm here. Oh, other people are here. I don't know why it says I just have one viewer. Okay, Bella's great. Celeste, you great? All right, Ferg, go. Type the question. Let me know what you got. Ask away, brother. Okay. Celeste, don't be scared. Okay? You're gonna be fine. You've been doing well. Everybody's been doing well. I mean, this has been a really good year, you know? And I know it's intimidating. And I know that when you get in there, you're gonna have those butterflies. Those butterflies are sometimes good. They'll get you, they get sort of the adrenaline pumping and whatnot. You take it one question at a time. You eliminate answers that are wrong. You look for the best answer. Sometimes you're going to look for, this is the thing that's kind of tricky. You're going to look for the answer that you think should be there. And because like, you know it, like, okay, I got this one. Yeah. And then like you look and the answer is not there. So a great example of that is like if you get a question about Marbury versus Madison, like what's the importance? And you go, bam, I know Marbury versus Madison. Sergeant told me this is judicial review. And you look down and judicial review is not one of the options. All of a sudden, you can do one of two things. Most people go number one. Oh my God, I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm going to fail this test. And then you start getting really, really messed up. Option two is you go and you read through the answers and you say, which one of these, because I know judicial review, which one of these sounds like judicial review? And there could be one that says, hey, I'm going to take out these headphones because there's no one else that's broadcasting. This could be like, you know, it could say something like the Supreme Court has the right to determine the constitutionality of laws. Well, that's basically a definition of judicial review. And so you go like, aha, see, I knew it. It was just phrased differently. Okay, for 19, the Electoral College created a system in which B, the president was insulated from direct popular control. Why was this correct? Oh, because we don't vote for president. So it kind of buffers us. So let's say, for example, that the American people decide to choose a bad candidate for president. Trying to rack my brain for when this might happen sometime in the near future. Can't think of one. Anyway, the Electoral College actually meets and elects the president. So if voters choose somebody that's just like horrible and the electors go in there, they have the ability to choose someone else to be the president of the United States. So that's a buffer, and that's where it's you know, insulation. It buffers you from the cold or from the heat in a house. So you're insulated from popular control because they didn't really want the people electing everybody directly, because then you could have this populist government that reacts to every single thing that you know, sort of comes up. So all right, Bella's ready. Good. And Bella is a big Trump fan, so that's good. I'm glad to see that. Yeah, Ferg, you got that one? Does that make sense on the insulated question? They could call it weather stripping, I guess, but they didn't. They called it insulated. Yeah. Then you. You guys really are not very good at this chat thing, or at least I'm not very good at this chat thing. I don't know. It's probably me. You guys probably know what each other are saying. Okay. Any other questions? Because we're sort of running out of time here. All right, Rich, dual and cooperative federalism. We've kind of already gone through this, Rich, but very basically, dual federalism is where you have, it's the old way before the Depression, the Great Depression, where state powers were state powers and federal powers were federal powers, and the federal government didn't get involved in state matters, and the states didn't get involved in federal matters. Cooperative federalism means that they're working together. It usually involves states having programs and the federal government giving them the cash in order to run the programs. And that's really the difference between the two. So in the dual, they're acting separately. In cooperative, they're cooperating with each other to get things done. And again, usually it's money. Malcolm, will we need to know dates? Yes. There are a couple of dates which are very important on this test. Number one, mandates. Yeah. And number two, unfunded mandates. So yeah, those are the dates that you'll need to know. But no, years, no. The only year that you'll ever really see on an AP exam that won't be like every year on these AP exams for Gov, they have something attached to them. So it'll say like the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We haven't covered that, but that just came to mind. But they'll say the big one is like the Constitution of 1787. That means the Constitution before there were any amendments, you know. I'm trying to think if there's any other instance where you might see a date, but I really, really don't think so. Unless there's a date associated with something and it's not just kind of sitting out there. So no, you don't have to worry about dates, years, just sort of put that out of your mind. Good to go. If you understand that cooperative federalism started in the 1930s because of the Great Depression, then, you know, that's about as deep as we get into dates for those things. But like Supreme Court cases, no, don't worry about the date. Kind of understand, some are early, some are later, that sort of thing. So those would be the only dates that you would need to know. All right, we good? All right, well, it sounds like people are pretty good. Final thoughts on this. Guys, look, you've been at this for, Malcolm throws in the 10th Amendment. Malcolm, rewind. I've already gone through the 10th Amendment, talked about what that is. It reserves powers to the states. Oh, wow, all of a sudden all this shows up. Okay, Rich, full faith and credit clause. Okay, so there's, when states interact with each other, so you got a federal system, you set it up, you say there's a division of power between the federal and the state governments, but they also had all these problems under the Articles of Confederation with states like messing with one another, so they had to set rules for like how states can deal with each other. Full faith and credit and privileges and immunities are, they're really, really close to one another. And the distinctions are not one. You don't really need to know the distinction. In other words, you won't see a question where it will give you, say like, here's a situation and like, what does this show? And it won't give you full faith and credit and privileges and immunities. It just won't. Full faith and credit means that any judicial proceedings that, or any contracts entered into in one state have to be honored by all other states. So if you, you know, and this protects people from who are doing business across state lines, for example. You know, if I sign, you know, a business deal with somebody in Colorado, then you know, it has to be honored everywhere in the United States. When I got married, my marriage certificate, my marriage license is in California. When I moved to Pennsylvania, I didn't have to get remarried. And so that's what full faith and credit is. It has to do with legal documents. Privileges and immunities basically say that you get the same rights as an out-of-state visitor to a state as the people who live in the state. And so, you know, if you come from a state where, let's say, you can't turn right on red, then and you go to a state where you can turn right on red, well, then you can turn right on red, and they're not, you know, there's not going to be some cop there pulling you over and going, aha, you come from a state where they don't allow this, so I'm going to give you a ticket, even though we allow it here, you know. So that doesn't happen. Elena, the difference between formal and informal methods of passing laws. I think what you're going for is amendments there, Elena, because passing laws, really, you kind of have to go through a formal process to pass a law. But in terms of amendments, formal is going through the process where it's proposed at the national level, it's ratified by the states. Informal is going through and changing the meaning of the Constitution without actually changing the Constitution itself, whether because courts interpret the Constitution some ways, whether it's because new laws are made which sort of change the Constitution a little bit, whether the Commerce Clause is used to expand the power of the federal government, you know, all of those sorts of things. There's a good listing of informal amendments and how to do that on pages 63 through like 66 in your textbook. So just kind of glance over that. I think in the 5 Steps to a 5, they do a nice job of going through that as well. Abiola, Federalist and Anti-Federalist. I just talked to your sister today, and she was asking about you guys. I told her you were doing well. Okay, so the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists were these two parties which were debating whether to adopt the Constitution or not. And the Federalists were the ones who said, okay, so this is what we've got. This is what we need. It's better than the Articles of Confederation. Here are all the reasons why. We've put in separation of powers. We've put in a federalist system that divides powers between the states and the federal government. We've put in checks and balances. We've laid out what the federal government can do and what it can't do, what states can't do. We've laid out all kinds of things. And yeah, this is the way to go. It might not be perfect, but it's really good, and it's far better than what we have. The Anti-Federalists come out and say, okay, so we came up with this thing, and it's not good enough, basically. We need to come back together and you know, rewrite it or you know, make some changes and then put it out there. And their biggest, well, I mean, their big fear was a strong central government, but their biggest argument was that there was no Bill of Rights. There was no guarantee of rights to citizens in the original Constitution. And so when they made their arguments, like, this is the one that resonated with the people, like, federal government can take away the freedom of speech. The federal government can tell me what religion I need to be. And they didn't want that. And so the deal was struck of, like, if this Constitution is ratified by the states, then the very first Congress will go through and they'll create, write, and adopt a Bill of Rights, send it out to the states to be ratified, which will put those things in the Constitution. And so they agreed to it, and they did it. And that's basically the argument there. The one thing that comes out of it, which really kind of helps constitutional scholars, is the Federalist Papers, which were written by Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, and like a couple of them are written by a guy named John Jay. And they try to explain why the people in the Constitutional Convention made certain decisions. And constitutional scholars and even the Supreme Court go back and they read that because they're trying to figure out what it was that was intended by the people who wrote it to help them interpret what it should mean. So yeah. Rich, Kilo versus City New London and US v. Lopez, don't worry about them. In fact, any court case which is not on the study guide, you don't need to know. The only 3 court cases that you need to know for this exam are Marbury versus Madison, McCulloch versus Maryland, and Gibbons v. Ogden. And beyond that, we'll get to more court cases later. Trust me, you'll get big time court cases when we get into like the early spring. But for now, 3. That's it. So yeah. So all right, Abby, I got your question. Good. Glad to see it. All right. Hit me up if you got questions. This is the time. Please don't come in first thing and be like, okay, wait, before you pass this out, I got to ask this question, because you're going to want the whole time to do this. Okay. Do we need to know any acts? For this test, I do not believe you need to know any specific laws. Yeah, I can't think of one off the top of my head that you would need to know. So no, not yet. There are going to be some down the road, but not yet. The only one that might show up is something like the Americans with Disabilities Act or the Clean Air Act, just because those are good examples of unfunded mandates where they said, like, the federal government said, you have to do this with the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act. You know, all public buildings have to have ramp access. They have to have the handicap bathrooms. They have to have, at the school, like when the fire alarm is going off, you see the flash before you hear the fire alarm, and that's set up for people who are deaf. But it's gotten to me so much, it's like one of those like almost Pavlovian things at this point, where like I see a flash out of the corner of my eye, and all of a sudden I'm like getting ready for the fire drill, But beyond that, no, you wouldn't need to know any acts, and I don't think it would ask even about that just yet. Questions you got taken care of. Different clauses in the Constitution, Elena, I guess. I would know simply the first 3 articles, and not know them, but know them that Article 1 has to deal with the Congress, Article 2 has to deal with the president, Article 3 has to deal with the courts. And that's really about all you need at this point. So the ADA we already got. Michelle answered that. How can the federal government use the Commerce Clause to give themselves more power? How much power can they get from it? Well, Michelle, it depends on how they define commerce. So an example of commerce, of using the Commerce Clause, would be this. The federal government was looking for a way to desegregate the South, right? And in order to desegregate the South, you really had to desegregate all different areas of the South. Now, they passed a law, the Civil Rights Act in 1964, which said you can't discriminate in public places. And they used the Commerce Clause to do that. They said, basically, in our power to regulate interstate commerce, any business is involved in interstate commerce. And there were a number of lawsuits where it came up, and it's like, hey, we only do business with people in our state. And the federal government even went so far as to say, if you're involved in an industry, even if your particular business does business just in one state, if you're involved in an industry that's involved in multiple states, then you can be regulated by the federal government. So it gives them more power to regulate those things. So like, for example, busing in the South, like busing systems where, African Americans had to sit in the back of the bus, for example, like in Montgomery. Although Montgomery's changed that law, it's a bad example. But anyway, something like that. the argument would be made that the federal government is in charge of interstate commerce. People who ride those buses, some of them are also going to then take them to bus stations to get on buses which go to other states, and bam, they're a part of interstate commerce because they helped move that person along the way. So it can be regulated by the federal government. Boom, now the federal government can regulate the local bus system and not the states. So that's an example of doing that. Rich, understand the difference between vertical and horizontal control. Don't worry about horizontal and vertical control. Honestly, those are terms that I haven't seen come from the College Board. They're in your textbook. So I wouldn't just put them out of your mind. Don't worry about it. And you'll be better on. Okay, so Michelle's good on the Commerce Clause. Anything else? Articles of Confederation were weak. Hopefully you know that. Interstate compacts. Oh yeah. Yeah. I don't remember if there's anything on the test about this, but interstate compacts, obviously if you're going to set up a system whereby states have to interact with one another, you figure they have to agree on things. And so it sets up a system whereby states can set up these compacts where they work together to solve problems. And a great example of this is like the Colorado River. Okay, so the Colorado River flows from, Colorado all the way down into Mexico. And it's a huge river. I mean, it created the Grand Canyon. So over time, as technology allowed cities to pop up in the middle of the desert, like Las Vegas, for example, which is very close to the Colorado River, they began siphoning water off of the Colorado River in order to provide water for their cities. And I mean, Vegas uses a lot of water. There's a lot of water in the Colorado, but Vegas uses a lot of water. And it's not the only city along there. So what happens to states which are downriver from Vegas? When it gets into New Mexico, what about the citizens of Albuquerque? What if Vegas siphons off so much water that the Colorado River runs dry, and now the people of Albuquerque, New Mexico, don't have a water source that's reliable. So they have to come together and make agreements about what's allowable, what's not allowable. Dumping things into rivers could be part of this. I don't know why I'm on rivers, but I'm just, going with the flow on this one. So yeah, interstate compacts are just agreements between the states to do things. The federal government usually stays out of them. Sometimes they weigh in and say whether they're okay or not. Interstate compacts can be declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, but they rarely are. So you're pretty good. Yeah, Michelle, you didn't like that joke, did you? You didn't like that. I'm just trying to stay current, That's how you deal with teenagers. You gotta keep it current. Like the Colorado River. Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Other questions? Gatorade. Very good for you. You want me to stop drinking Gatorade, Abby, or you want me to stop making silly jokes? Okay. Do we need to know that the New Deal is what set off cooperative federalism? It's good to know. Yeah. I don't think that I don't think that I've ever seen a question come up where it asks that specifically. But it could sort of refer to the New Deal and cooperative federalism. So it's a good idea to know. Because the federal government stepped in and they started doing all kinds of things, like the Hoover Dam. You guys saw that in the video in Constitution USA. It's a great example of something the state of Nevada couldn't have done by themselves. They needed federal money and federal resources in order to create it. And so the federal government stepped up and did it. Devolution is simply, and again, you can probably rewind and get this in more detail, but the big idea is this: there was a time when the federal government was getting too involved in state matters, regulating too many things. the whole idea with the ketchup being a vegetable. You know, like we're over-regulating a little bit. And so devolution said it was a process whereby more power was given back to the states. The federal government kind of backed off of them a little bit. And rather than giving money that was done through categorical grants, saying you have to spend money on this, you have to spend on this, you have to spend on this, they started using block grants more often, which is, you know, like, here's money, spend it as you need it. I understand you need help, but we're not going to take a lot of time, you know, telling you how to spend your money. Michelle, we need to know who wrote the Declaration of Independence and who wrote the Constitution. No, I don't think so. But I hope you do, because it's kind of like a good thing to know. So, who does someone type it in? Declaration of Independence, who wrote it? Go. And we wait as people look through their book. Come on, people. Declaration of Independence. Jefferson, there you go. Nice job. Okay, and who wrote the Constitution? Okay, I hope these Thomas Jefferson are still Declaration of Independence. Yeah, okay, good. Who wrote the Constitution? James Madison, absolutely, yeah. Now, that doesn't mean they totally wrote it. Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. It was, he had some then like editorial suggestions from Franklin and Adams. And then, of course, it had to go in from the whole Continental Congress, and they made some edits to it before the final draft was approved. Same deal with Madison. He came in with the plan. He had it all written out. It was through committee over the course of that summer of 1787, edited and changed and all that into its final form. But Madison had, you know, the Constitution. So yeah, it's not essential that you know those things, but it's, you know, always good to have that in your back pocket, that you know these things. All right. All right, well, at this point, we are at 9:15. It sounds like you guys are pretty good on things. You're starting to ask some pretty sort of like fringe questions. Sounds like the big ideas are there. Michelle, Madisonian model create the bicameral legislature or the three branches of government. Madisonian model, three branches of government, checks and balances, separation of powers. Division of powers with federalism, all of that. The bicameral legislature was agreed upon with the Connecticut Compromise, so it wasn't really Madisonian, but yeah, but you know the underlying things. John Marshall's rulings, Rich. Don't worry about it. He was the guy for Marbury versus Madison. He was the guy for McCulloch versus Maryland, I'm pretty sure. Gibbons v. Ogden, I don't think was him. But we don't need to worry about who the Supreme Court Justice was, or the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was. Like, you won't need to know that. They might say that in a question. Like John Marshall, you know, blah, 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 gave this the power of, you know, whatever. But no, I wouldn't worry too much there. Okay. All right. Well, that's about all the energy that I have here. It is getting late. I'm going to see you guys nice and early. Trust in yourselves. Okay. Look, you guys know this stuff. Okay. You guys are accomplished students. You have studied hard. You've prepared for this. Okay. Take it one step at a time. Take one question at a time. Oh my goodness, Valkyrie, how you doing? Hey, Val, do me a favor. Type in a piece of advice to these students taking their first cumulative test. I'm not even going to tell you what but just type, what should they do? By the way, Valkyrie is the one who painted the picture of like Starry Night there. that's up in my classroom, you know, and it's like me with the swirlies. And yes, I'm doing great. Cumulative test, yes. One piece of advice, because you took a bunch of them, and say, don't put mahjong. You're gonna hate me for that. I should just stop with the mahjong thing. Valkyrie, she's thinking. She's a good speaker, so maybe typing is not her thing. All right, look at that. Don't stress too much. If you overstudy, chances are you're studying the wrong stuff, especially if you're binging. Yep. Tommy Vo, another AP Euro stream. Tommy Vo, straight up, every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tom Ritchie and I are going to be on most. Tom Ritchie is going to be on most of them, it looks like. So every Tuesday night. This Tuesday, absolutism and constitutionalism. So we're going to be doing that. Are all 3 chapters? Do we need to know all the vocab? I would know the vocab. You know, I can't say you're going to know all of it. Obviously, you don't have to know all of it. There are more than 60 terms, and there's only 60 questions. But I would know all of it. Don't know it word for word. Just get it. Get the concept of what it is. Okay. Spread out the information. Take it piece by piece. Go over what you absolutely don't know. Yes, very good advice. Most times people pick up 5 steps to a 5, and you start at the beginning, and you read and you read and you read. It's kind of boring, and you get through the first, 3 pages, and then like you sort of fizzle out. So look for the things that you don't know. Go to tutoring, ask questions. Sarge loves you guys and is there to help. It's totally true. But Valkyrie, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Valkyrie, but I think that Valkyrie was a student went back in the day before I coached, when I actually had time to tutor during the fall. But don't worry, guys, I will be there. Oh, hey, thanks, Tommy. I'll see you next week too. Hey, and tell your friends, because we got to get these numbers up on this AP Euro thing. We got to spread the word. We got to get people learning about this incredible class. By the way, those of you who are watching from my class, AP Euro next year, greatest class ever. Seriously. And Valkyrie can back me up on the AP Euro thing as well. So anyway, no, and that's why that's why I do the live videos, is because I can't be there for tutoring for you guys. But come like October 29th or something like that, I'll be there 5 days a week if you need me. Yeah, AP Euro was great. There it is. Yeah, they all know about you. We watch your videos during class. That's really cool. It's kind of odd. It's an odd feeling knowing that that's happening. So I hope you enjoy the videos, Tommy. All right, well, hey, you guys have yourselves a great night. Keep studying, and please do yourself a favor. Don't stay up too late studying for this thing, okay? Get sleep. You can cram all night, but if you fall asleep on the test, you're not going to do well. So get a good night's sleep and go with what you know, okay? Glad this has helped, Michelle. I'm happy. That's why I do this. Yeah, I'll see you 4th period, Rich. So you guys have a good night. Thanks for watching. And yeah, you guys are awesome. And that's why I do this for you. So take care. I'll see you tomorrow.